Hello! I'm Elaine. I'm going to be giving you some book reviews on whatever I've read recently because I have opinions, so why the hell not? We're going to start with The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This is a book that I have seen so many reviews on. I have not watched all of them because I don't want my opinion skewed, but I will tell you that I know that my opinion differs from a lot of people. I will also say that this is a book that I completely disagree with the back cover on. You see, the back cover seems determined that Marco and Celia are the main characters of this book. And in my opinion, they're not. See, Marco and Celia's biggest moment of agency in this entire novel is to give up their agency. And while that's interesting, that does not a protagonist make. No, my opinion is that the main character of this novel is Bailey, which is a problem, because Bailey barely appears in the first 50 to 100 pages of the book. And I'm tempted to use that as a segue to just delve into my problem with the book, but first, basic review stuff. The Night Circus tells the story of two wizards/magicians that are forced into a competition together. They are bound by their mentors, who have set up this competition as a sort of challenge to prove which is the better school of thought: talent and instinct, or skill and study. They are bound to this competition as children. They have no choice about it, but they don't meet until the competition is basically underway. The competition is set at the circus, the Night Circus. It's called Le Cirque de Rêve, the Circus of the Dreams, and it was set up as a battlefield for these two competitors. And it's unusual for these kinds of competitions because this is a very public venue, which means that there are a lot of people involved. Pawns, active agents, and just spectators, all of whom are innocent, all of whom are bound to the circus, and all of whom suffer when things go wrong. Bailey is a child who first visits the circus once when it comes to his town when he's like 10-ish, and then it comes back when he's a teenager, right at the time of his life when he's trying to decide whether he wants to stay at home and do what his parents tell him to, or go off and make his own way in the world. He finds himself drawn to the circus, largely because of a girl, and finds himself drawn into a battle that he didn't even know was going on. Now, before I get into my problems, I do also want to quickly just say, I liked this book. I liked it a lot. I liked the people, I liked the characters, once I'd gotten into it. But damn, did it take me forever to get into it. There are objectively 50 to 100 pages of this book that are just character introductions, backstory, and world building. And while that's not innately a problem, I like world building. It's part of the reason I like fantasy novels. But this book, it just feels like it's taking too long. Partially because it's done in these really short chapters and vignettes that are very, like, 2 to 3 page long, jumping back and forth in timeline and jumping in different character point of view. Occasionally even, like, tenses change. And that just meant that there wasn't much I had to latch on to. So this is the second book in a row that I read that utilizes really short chapters. And if this is a trend, it's one I do not like. Because simply put, really short chapters prevent me from being able to get into the story. It gives me just enough time to begin to picture things in my head, to begin to get to know these people, when suddenly we stop. And quite often I find myself inclined to set down the book at the end of those short chapters and just not pick it back up. Which is why it took me months to read this book, and it never takes me months to read books, especially not this length. So I don't particularly like that trope. But I will also say that I think the biggest thing this book suffered from, for me, was high expectations. I'd heard so much about how this was such an innovative work, doing creative storytelling, and objectively, I'm not that impressed. Like, yeah, the innovations here are jumping in timelines, little short vignettes, some of which are written in a journalistic style describing what it's like to visit the circus, switching character POVs. None of that is that unusual. It is unusual for a book that is very commercially written and very clearly genre, but it's not, like, world-shatteringly new. Honestly, I've read dozens of books with the same basic storytelling setup, but if you set that aside, if you stop thinking about, ooh, the creative, new, innovative storytelling, it is a good book. I enjoyed it. I liked Bailey, I liked Poppet, I liked Widget, I liked Kiko, and yes, even Marco and Celia once I got to know them, though it took forever because they have no character in the first 100 pages. But I liked them once I got to know them. And I did like the circus itself, which is, of course, a very strong character in this book. Like, honestly, the biggest character in this book, one could say the main character, is the circus itself. I'm not going to say that, though, because the circus itself lacks protagonistic qualities like, you know, active agency and change. But at the same time, it was a fun, interesting read. But that's what it was. It was just a fun, interesting gas lamp fantasy. Not world-shattering new storytelling.